Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be sharing my 8.0 version of the 7-round Steelers mock draft right here on the channel. And, it's been quite a long journey here throughout the draft season. It's our 8th mock draft so far. I'm going to be putting one out next week, and that's going to be my final one. But we're less than a week away from the NFL draft here, man. It's flown by for sure, and I think that this has been a lot of fun to this point, guys. But let me tell you, once this draft week stuff gets going, it's going to get really, really good, really, really fast. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for our extensive coverage of NFL Draft Week. We've got breakdowns of every single pick. We're going to be live for every pick on this channel as well. We're also going to be, doing grades videos at the end of it all. We're going to be doing UDFAs on the next day. A lot of great content is coming your way during Draft Week, guys. So click that subscribe button to never miss a single video. So as you guys know, if you've been watching this series throughout the NFL offseason this year, no repeat picks from previous mock drafts, all right? And the reason why I have that rule is because I want to put as many Steelers draft targets as I can in front of you. And I get to talk about more players that I like. I get to talk about more players that you should be aware of as Steelers fans, at least in my opinion. And it's more fun for you because I'm not talking about the same players week in and week out. So I'm starting to run out of players here because I've taken a lot of the players I really, really like. But I think I put together a pretty darn good list here. So hold on here, guys. We're about to make my first pick at number 21. And I'm getting a call from the Detroit Lions. And they want to move up to number 21 to take their preferred edge rusher to pair with Aiden Hutchinson at number 21. And they are offering us a trade down from 21 to 28. But we get the second round pick that they have at number 60. And we get their third round pick at 104, but we also have to include our third round pick this year at number 83. So this is something that I'm going to accept because it gets you that extra day 2 pick, and it puts you in the second round as well. So you're only moving down a few spots. I still think the Steelers can get the player that they want at number 28. And with that pick at number 28, I'm going to have the Steelers take TreVeyon Henderson, running back out of Ohio State. Now, personally, this is not my preferred pick, all right? My preferred picks are, in mocks 1 through 7. But reason why I'm having Henderson go in the first round in this week's mock draft is because I don't want anyone to be surprised if it happens, all right? He's got the holy trinity here, guys, where, the Steelers brass was at his pro day, Tomlin and Khan, and then you also had the formal combine visit and the top 30 visit. So that's a lot of interest in TreVeyon Henderson here, guys. And you can see my scouting report here. He's got world-class acceleration and long speed, which makes him a home run hitter. He's a really good pass protector. He's a plus receiving threat. And he's got great ball security. 0 fumbles last year at Ohio State. So a lot of really good stuff with his profile. And he's got incredible upside because of that. But the cons, he doesn't have very good vision, which gives me big-time pause putting him in an outside zone-heavy scheme like the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's going to have to identify cutback lanes, something that Jaylen Warren does so well that Henderson just doesn't. And then the Ohio State Buckeyes, they brought in Quinshon Judkins last year to make their number 1 running back, and that makes me concerned. A player that explosive like Henderson pretty much got replaced and said, no, we can't put you as our number 1 running back. We have to go and get Quinshon Judkins, and we're going to make you our third down back. Now, what I will say is that if you do draft Henderson in the first round, Warren's going to be your number 1 running back, and Henderson would probably be a really, really good third down back for this team. It would allow the Steelers to have an explosive back on the field at all times, something that they couldn't say when they had Najee Harris in years past, and it could absolutely be dangerous. And by the way, Henderson, if he develops some vision, I think that he has got the potential to be one of the best running backs in the National Football League. It really is that high of a ceiling. I do think his floor is relatively high as well because I think he's going to be a really, really good third down back at the very, very least. And the running back position is super important for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they've done a lot of research in Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina and TreVeyon Henderson out of Ohio State. All I'm telling you guys, I'm not saying for sure it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers take a running back in round 1 this year. So would you be happy with this trade down scenario and taking TreVeyon Henderson in round 1? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. So here in round 2, I'm going to go get an offensive weapon for this offense here in TreVeyon Williams out of TCU. And, I think Williams is not a good route runner. I don't want to list him as a wide receiver because he's just not really a true wide receiver. He's got terrible route running footwork, and that would, obviously the Steelers would work with him on that, but he is so dynamic out in space. All right, you get the ball in his hands out in space, you use him as kind of a great kind of shift in motion type of guy on orbit motions and jet sweeps and all this different stuff. He is so good and so big and so dynamic with the ball in his hands. And honestly, I think that you can use him as kind of a bigger, short yardage and goal line running back as well, because you got TreVeyon Henderson, you got Jalen Warren as your 2 running backs. Those guys are relatively smaller. All right, you could use TreVeyon Williams in wildcat formations as well. He was a high school quarterback. TCU's best part of the offense last year was when TreVeyon was running a wildcat package for them. So, this is a guy where if Arthur Smith just wants to get creative, and we know how much Art likes to get these kind of bigger type of yak threats on crossing routes and on digs and get them out in open space. If you put him into this offense, I have some level of confidence here that Arthur Smith is going to be able to use him in the right way so that he can have success in the league. All right, so I would love to add this versatile offensive weapon to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, add him to guys like George Pickens and DK Metcalf, 2 other big body type of wide receivers, and then also with guys like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, guys that are a bit smaller. So you got a great variety. You got a bunch of different skill sets in your wide receiver room. You can also use him as a running back, as a wildcat quarterback, do the Justin Fields stuff with TreVeyon. I think that it opens up the playbook so much when you draft a player like this, and I haven't taken him in a mock draft yet, so I'll take him here in round 2. Then in round 3, with the pick that we got with the Detroit Lions at 104, I'm going to take Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse. I haven't taken Kyle in a mock draft for the Steelers so far this offseason, and Chat Sports actually got a report the other day that McCord believes that if he is there at number 83, that the Steelers are going to take him. Now, who knows? Like, maybe the Steelers have kind of led him on a little bit. Maybe McCord is kind of sunny, broadcasting kind of what he thinks is going to happen. I have an early day 3 grade on him. I would rather take him in round 4, but here in round 3, if you really want to get a quarterback, McCord is very intelligent. He's got a really good pre-snap processor, really good ball placement. He does get himself in trouble because he's so kind of confident in his pre-snap processor that he'll just throw the ball into harm's way when the defense shifts post-snap. I also don't love his throwing mechanics. But if you want to go, use a dart throw on a quarterback in the middle rounds here, I think that McCord is somebody that people compare to Brock Purdy because of his anticipation, because of his pre-snap processing. He just, on film, he looks like an NFL processor, and that's something that the Pittsburgh Steelers may be interested in. So I think that he's intriguing enough as a prospect where I would be okay with him here in late round 3 to take him. So coming up here on the Steelers Talk mock draft here, my 8.0 version, my day 3 picks for the black and gold, round 4 through 7 is coming up here momentarily. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time. The NBA playoffs are getting started. And if you want to experience the energy and the stakes of playoff basketball, you can get great seats at guaranteed low prices with our friends at Game Time today. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, and you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. The Cleveland Cavaliers have locked up the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference this year heading into the playoffs, and you can experience their postseason run in the weeks to come just over a 2-hour drive from Pittsburgh. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So coming up here, round 4, I'm going to take Joshua Farmer, defensive tackle out of Florida State, and I think that this guy, Farmer, out of the Seminoles, really good run defender. All right, that's the thing that stands out to me. Really good run defending technique. I think that he does a good job penetrating and getting into the backfield. I think he's got quick feet, got long arms to be able to win leverage and all these different things. And, he's got a really good rip and swim move to get into the backfield when he's defending the run game. Now, the cons are, I think that he has a limited ceiling as a pass rusher. He's not really dynamic in that way. He's got a little bit of a bull rush to be able to push the pocket, but he's not going to be anything special in that regard. I don't love his lower body strength or his anchor ability, so I don't think he's a nose tackle. Don't think he's going to be able to take on double teams all that well. So he's more of almost like a 5 technique, a run defending 5 technique in my opinion. Kind of similar to Daniel Ekuale, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I think Farmer can rotate in on day one. I think that he's a pro-ready prospect in terms of being a run-defending DT that can also push the pocket a little bit. I don't want to take him anywhere above round 4, but the Steelers really do seem to really like him, and they have shown a lot of interest in him. Top 30 visit, a formal combine meeting, the whole 9 yards there. So I do think Farmer is a name for Steelers fans to keep their eye on. Then round 5, I love this pick, Sebastian Castro, defensive back out of Iowa. And last year, the Philadelphia Eagles took a defensive back out of Iowa in the middle rounds there in round 2. His name was Cooper DeJean. He was the highest graded corner in all of football. Now, I'm not expecting that for Sebastian Castro, especially not in year 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Castro was kind of being discussed in that light as a Cooper DeJean, Brian Branch type of player before they moved him to safety this past year at Iowa, where he still played pretty well, but he wasn't as good than where he was playing in the slot in years prior, at least not in my opinion on film this past year. I do think he's a little bit limited as an athlete, but I think that he can play in the slot. I think he's a really smart player. Iowa does a fantastic job coaching up their defensive backs. And I think if you wanted to use him as a third safety in a bandit formation, or if you want to use him in the slot as a kind of true nickel DB, I'm okay with either one of those things. And I think that he's got some good versatility. I think he's well coached, and I think that he can help this defense win and be the unit that they are capable of becoming in 2025. So here in round 6, I'm going to take Jimmy Horn Jr., wide receiver out of Colorado. Now, Horn is small, tiny, all right? But he is so fast from the slot. I think that he's going to be such a fun slot wide receiver. Now, you might be saying, but Jack, we got Calvin Austin III, and we've got Roman Wilson. Well, that's true, but, I think that you put Roman Wilson and Jimmy Horn Jr. in the Thunderdome, and you see who comes out on top. All right? I just think that, this is such a value because Horn, he does everything fast, all right? You guys will hear me say this about guys like Jaden Higgins as well, who's bigger, but, I love wide receivers like Puka Nacua, for example, that do everything fast. They don't slow down to do anything. They catch the ball at full speed, and they don't slow down in any part of the process of catching the football and converting into a runner, all right? I love that about Jimmy Horn Jr. There's a play where Shadur Sanders steps up in the pocket, he gets hit as he's throwing, and the ball is severely underthrown. Jimmy Horn Jr. on a post route is wide-ass open, adjusts to the football, then he makes an insane cut to make a guy miss, and then he shows off incredible long speed to finish it with a touchdown. That's one of the most impressive reps that you're going to see from a wide receiver anywhere in this class, and because he's undersized, I do think that he is going to be somebody that goes probably on day 3 in this draft, and I think that he could end up being an absolute steal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So as we saw last year, there wasn't enough depth at wide receiver for the Steelers. Getting a guy like Jimmy Horn Jr. will certainly help that out. Then round 7, I'm going to draft somebody that got a top 30 visit with the Steelers this year, currently expected to go in round 7, Justin Wally, cornerback out of Minnesota. Now, Wally, team captain there with the Golden Gophers, and PJ Fleck, row the boat. That's really, really important. High character guy. And I really like that this guy's just such a playmaker, man. 7 interceptions in his college career. He was a 4-year starter in St. Paul there in Minnesota. 3 forced fumbles and 27 breakups. He can play on the outside or the inside. He's probably going to be more of an inside player in the league. He does remind you a little bit of Beanie Bishop Jr. when he was coming out of West Virginia last year, only he's not as tiny. So he's still somebody that has a nose for the football. He's still somebody that makes big plays like Beanie tended to do in his rookie season for the Steelers. But if you're looking to get a Beanie type of player without the tiny size, that's a liability in coverage. Wally's an undersized corner, but he's got versatility. He's got experience playing in the slot as well. That's also a playmaker. And if you get him in round 7, guys, that is an incredible, incredible value. And, you might be saying, but Jack, you took, another defensive back type of player, nickel type player in Sebastian Castro. Why are you taking another one here in round 7? Well, the reason, guys, is because I think that the more depth you have in the secondary, the better. And we saw it last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers that they got injured in the secondary last year, and it absolutely killed this defense. Dante was hurt the entire season with a back issue. Joey Porter Jr. was dealing with stuff. Bunch of different injuries to this secondary. And I just want to avoid, with all my heart, with all due respect to James Pierre, that he's not starting football games for this team next year. So, getting two pretty darn good defensive backs, and, hopefully one of them will hit. That's kind of my thinking right here. Plus, you get some good depth. And I just think that at that position in particular, especially with the way it ended last year, that can only be a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So my mock 8.0 for the black and gold: TreVeyon Henderson in round 1, Savion Williams in round 2, Kyle McCord in round 3, Joshua Farmer in round 4, Sebastian Castro in round 5, Jimmy Horn Jr. in round 6, and Justin Wally in round 7. Grade the mock for me down there in the comments section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And again, next week, I can start recycling some of these players, finally. All right, I've had to find new players every single week, all throughout the offseason. I hope I did a good job of that. But now, next week, here is my final Steelers mock draft before the draft gets going next Thursday. So if you want to check that out, I will have it out on the channel either Wednesday or Thursday, probably Wednesday. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until then, guys, here we go, Steelers.